They were created to observe, protect, and guide. The Watchers, celestial beings of radiant light, stood as the bridge between the divine and mortal realms. From their vantage point in the heavens, they watched Earth, teeming with life, flourishing under the Creator's hand. But even in paradise, doubt can grow. Semjaza, a leader among the Watchers, questioned the rules imposed upon them. How can we guide them if we remain apart? He pondered. Humanity struggled in ignorance, their potential untapped, their cries for wisdom echoing unanswered.
I was not made for war. I was not made for judgment. I was made to watch, to observe the threads of fate without interference. That was our purpose, our command. And yet, I could not stand idly by as mortals suffered. The man lay broken before me, his breath shallow, his body barely clinging to life. To intervene or not, is it truly defiance? His kind were fragile, yet they burned so brightly. I could feel the heavens pressing down upon me, a silent warning. Do not intervene. But mercy is not defiance. I placed my hand on his forehead, and the light flowed, gentle and warm, as it always did when I reached into the realm of the living. His pain lessened, his wounds closed, his eyes opened, wide with fear and wonder. He would never know my name. He would never know what I had given, but I knew. And I knew this would not be the last time.
I was not the first to feel the weight of discontent, but I was the first to speak it aloud. We stood atop Mount Hermon, the sky dark with unspoken warnings. The others looked to me, not just for guidance, but for permission. We had spent eternity watching as mankind struggled, watching as heaven dictated fate without care for those below, watching as those we swore to observe suffered without reason. I clenched my fists, no more. We have watched long enough. We have listened long enough. No more silence. No more waiting. We make our own path now. One by one they knelt. One by one they pledged themselves to my cause. The heavens rumbled. The stars above flickered as if in mourning. But I did not look back. If heaven would not act, then we would. And if that was a sin, then so be it.
This cannot remain, he declared, his frustration palpable. The Council of Angels, bound to their divine laws, silenced him. It is not our place to interfere, they decreed. Yet the question lingered in Semjaza's heart like an itch that couldn't be scratched. And indeed, he was not alone. Other Watchers, captivated by humanity's raw potential, shared his thoughts. Admiration turned to curiosity, curiosity to envy, and envy to desire.
Mortals are such interesting creatures, so desperate, so hungry, so willing to listen if you speak the right words. I stood before them, the rulers of their small, growing world. Their eyes flickered with hesitation, yet I could hear their thoughts as clearly as if they had spoken aloud. They wanted power, knowledge. They wanted to stand among the stars, but feared reaching too high. Ah, but that is where I come in. You wish for power, you wish for knowledge, and I can give it to you. I saw the way their shoulders tensed, the way their hands twitched toward the parchment before them. Sacred symbols, written in the language of the divine. Knowledge never meant for them. I did not force them. I never force. I only open the door and let them decide whether to walk through. The first man reached forward, trembling fingers brushing the forbidden text. Ah, there it is. The moment where innocence dies and ambition is born.
In the beginning, they were only watchers, silent sentinels placed between heaven and earth. But time would forge them into more than mere observers. Sariel, with a heart too soft to stand idly by, sought to mend what was broken. Valith, with words like silk and shadows, knew how to twist the world to his advantage. And Semjaza, strong as the storm, bore the burden of command. They were different, and yet they were bound by something greater than the will of heaven. They were brothers, not by blood but by choice, and soon by defiance. They gathered in secret atop a celestial mountain far from prying eyes, their voices unified in rebellion. "If we shall fall," Semjaza declared, "then we fall together. Let no one betray the other." Their oath marked the beginning of their descent, a cascading fall of light that shattered the barrier between the divine and mortal. And so they came, not as guides, but as gods, gods among men. Their arrival was heralded by awe. Humans knelt before them, captivated by their beauty, their wisdom, and their promises. The Watchers taught forbidden knowledge, secrets of the heavens, the crafting of weapons from metal, the arts of enchantment, the understanding of stars. With this knowledge came power, and with power came darkness, and in the darkness, absolute chaos. The once abundant earth, peaceful and pure, became a place of blood and fire. Semjaza and his loyal band of followers stood by, watching humanity misuse their gifts. Pesky humans. Yet their greatest sin wasn't knowledge. It was love. The Watchers, growing weary of their celestial forms, took human wives. Well, more like picked them out like kids in a candy store. "That one, I'll take that one. She shall be mine."
If I am to be chosen, I am to be truly blessed.
Guys, Helger, let's leave. Oh my gosh.
Ooh, yes. Yeah.
Oi, you lot! You had chance to consider my offer yet?
How could we forget such a compelling proposal?
There's an expiry date, you know. Here, cup a load of this. Plenty to keep you warm at night, boys.
Perhaps another time, madam. We have pressing matters to attend.
She's absolutely lost it.
So, what do we think of this offer?
It's laughable. A crude attempt at flattery, nothing more. Well, that was...
Mortals,
something.
ever fascinating in their audacity.
Yet still, it amuses me. The mortals are bold. I'll give them that.
And so, after careful consideration, Helga was sadly not chosen. Can you imagine the abomination breeding with Helga would have caused? Although bold and brave, the Watchers was never that brave.
Will shall dance in bond. Always.
As soon as I lay eyes on her, I knew. Her bold heart and determination matching my own.
Not a thought was given to the consequences of crossbreeding between divine beings and mortals. From these unions of the divine and fine came the Nephilim, towering giants, their strength unmatched, their appetites insatiable. They weren't the brightest bulbs in the heavenly chandelier, but they were clumsy, destructive, and terrifyingly effective at making everything worse. The Nephilim ravaged the land, consuming resources, waging wars, and leaving trails of devastation wherever they went. Villages burned, families scattered, and the earth trembled under their weight. But for the women who bore them, the cost was far greater. Ishara, a young woman from a quiet village, recalls the day her life changed forever. "They came as gods, cloaked in light," she whispers, her voice tinged with pain. "But what they brought was ruin. One Watcher, towering and beautiful, chose her. What began as awe turned to fear as his love became a hunger she could not escape." Fun fact, When a celestial being shows up glowing and gorgeous, maybe don't invite him in for tea. Not all that glitters turns out to be gold. Ishara was kneeling on the packed earth floor of her modest home, scrubbing at the endless stream of grime that seemed to seep up from the ground itself. It wasn't much of a home anymore, not since he had claimed it as his temple. Once a place of laughter, quiet evenings, and the scent of roasting bread, it now felt suffocating, as though the walls themselves bowed in worship to their new master. He sat in the corner, impossibly tall, even when hunched over, his piercing eyes glowing faintly in the dim light of the single oil lamp. His celestial form was a grotesque contradiction, terrifyingly beautiful, yet coldly inhuman, the kind of beauty that made you wonder if you'd die just by looking too long. Ishara's heart raced as he cleared his throat, a sound that carried the weight of mountains shifting. "Ishara," he said, his voice a deep velvety thunder, "my shaft is filthy." She froze mid-scrub, her knuckles aching from hours of cleaning. Her fingers were raw, her back screamed in protest, but she didn't dare meet his eyes. "I'll tend to it after I finish this," she said softly, trying to keep her voice steady. A silence followed, a dangerous, suffocating kind of silence that seemed to stretch on forever. Then, the sound of his movement, the groan of wooden beams under his weight, made her flinch. Before she could react, he was behind her, towering over her like a storm cloud about to break. He knelt, his presence so overwhelming it made the small room feel like a prison cell. His voice was quiet now, almost gentle, but it carried the sharp edge of a blade. "No," he said, "you'll do it now." She gripped the scrub brush tighter, her trembling fingers betraying the defiance she dared not speak aloud. "Your shaft will still be there in an hour," she whispered, hoping, praying that he might take pity on her. His hand, massive and deceptively elegant, gripped her wrist, and she felt the searing heat of his touch. Not hot enough to burn, but enough to remind her that he was not human, that he could unmake her with a thought. "You misunderstand me," he said, his lips curling into a cold smile. It wasn't a suggestion. And then it happened. Something she couldn't explain. Something that made her stomach churn with dread. The room itself seemed to shift. The walls rippled, the floor grew impossibly smooth, and the air took on a strange electric hum. Her body moved without her permission, her legs carrying herself over to him, even as her mind screamed in protest. She dropped to her knees before him, her hands reaching towards him as he sat there with that stern, cold stare. Her own voice betrayed her as she heard herself say, "Yes, my lord." It wasn't her. It couldn't be her. The Watcher stood up, positioning himself behind her, his shadow stretching long and dark across the room. "Good," he said, his tone as casual as if they'd just finished discussing the weather. "A woman should take pride in her duties. Don't you agree?" The words stung more than any lash ever could. She wanted to scream, to cry, to snap his damshaft in two, and spit in his perfect, unearthly face. But all she could do was carry on, her body no longer her own. "Such a diligent little human," he murmured, his voice filled with mockery. "See, Ishara, we're not so different. You serve, I command. It's the natural order." As he turned and walked away, his laughter, low and rumbling, echoed through the room, leaving her alone with her shame and the endless pile of ash before her. After some time, the inevitable happened. She bore his child, a giant whose cries shook the walls of her home. "They called it a miracle," she says, her voice breaking. "It felt like a curse." Her son grew at an unnatural speed, his size and strength terrifying the villagers, despite everything. She loved him, but the world, fearful of the unknown, saw him only as a monster. When the villagers came with torches and blades, Eshara fled into the wilderness, her son cradled in her arms. But love could not shield him from what he became. As he grew, so did his darkness. She watched in despair as he joined the other Nephilim, leaving destruction in his wake. I hid him to save him, she weeps, but I could not save the world from him. Humanity, desperate and broken, turned against their oppressors. Armed with the Watcher's forbidden knowledge, they forged weapons and prepared for battle. Leaders rose, rallying their people. We fight not for glory, one declared, but for survival. They may be giants, but we are many. On this day, no man dies, including you, Claude. Claude, the town's coward, aka Coward Claude, rushing around trying his absolute best to look busy, doing anything other than preparing for war. Well, maybe you, Claude, but if you do so fighting. Else I'll gut you myself, you flea-ridden runt. The war was brutal. The Nephilim, despite their size and strength, fell to human ingenuity and sheer will. For every human who perished, 10 more took their place. The tide began to turn, as waves upon waves of brave and united human forces smashed the dense walls of the Nephilim. The Watchers, hidden in the shadows, were mostly consumed by guilt. Their rebellion had brought ruin, and they could no longer deny the consequences of their actions. Some sought redemption, secretly aiding humanity in their fight. Others, like Semjaza, knelt in despair. We gave them knowledge, he lamented, and they used it to destroy us all. Was this our punishment? To see our creations unravel the Creator's work? The Creator's judgment came swiftly. The Watchers were bound in chains of light, their celestial forms stripped away. They were cast into the abyss, their cries echoing through the void. The Nephilim too were destroyed, their bodies buried beneath the earth, their spirits condemned to wander as restless shadows. If you've ever wondered why your closet creaks at night, well, there's your answer. The earth began to heal. Forests regrew, rivers ran clear, and humanity rebuilt. But the scars remained. Whispered stories of giants, hidden symbols carved into stone, and fragments of forbidden knowledge passed down through generations. What was lost with the Watchers? What truths remain hidden in the shadows of history? Even now, their legacy lingers. Researchers uncover ancient texts, glowing symbols beneath UV light, hinting at secrets long suppressed. From myths of giants to the suppressed Book of Enoch, one question remains: how much of our history has been rewritten? The story of the Watchers warns us of the dangers of knowledge and the price of rebellion. But as humanity reaches for the divine through science, ambition, or hubris, are we doomed to repeat their sins? What do you believe? Let me know in the comments below. Sue, what happened to Helga? Well, you remember Claude? He found his courage and single-handedly took down a towering giant. Who would have thought? Remembered for many years to come as Claude the Brave. Some say he earned this title for his bravery on the battlefield. Others, well, suggest his title was earned from other affairs.
Oi, Peeping Tom. I see you. Sneaking a peek, are we, huh?
Don't know what you mean, darling. What's you on about?
Sneaking around in that cave, spying on me.
You want some, do you? 'Cause I'll give it to you, mate.
Ha! Hold him coming in!
Ha, as am I. Well, in around 30 seconds.
You are my beautiful love, a whisper in the night.
Oh, careful with the goods, lover. You don't want to break something, do ya?
And faith feels right. Hold me close, hold me tight.
Yes!
When the dawn lights, the sky
Yes!
blue. Every touch I fall deeper into your heartbeat, a rhythm I'll always know. And it's cadence.
And that's how it went down with Helga and Claude. Until next time, friends.